Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Courageous Path to Freedom Virtual VBS. We're going to be looking at the story of Joseph, how Joseph was son of Jacob. He had 10 older brothers and a younger brother, but Joseph was his family's favorite child, or at least his father's favorite child. His older brothers kind of resented the fact that Dad played favorites with Joseph. As Joseph grew up and became a teenager, there were a couple of times when he saw some of his older brothers doing things that he knew their father would not approve of, and Joseph basically was a tattletale. Well, the other brothers were very angry when they found out that Joseph was telling on them to their father. Their father gave Joseph a gift that he didn't give to any of the others. All of us have experienced times like Christmas when everybody gets presents, or a birthday, some graduation, some special occasion where because it's the individual's birthday or the individual's graduation, they're getting presents and nobody else is. But if somebody is being given presents all the time and you're not getting the same level of attention, that could cause people to be a little bit angry. And Joseph's brothers were very angry over a long period of time because Dad kept showing favoritism to Joseph. Was that a good thing for them to do? No. Was it a good thing for their dad to show favoritism? No. But people are people, and sometimes they make mistakes. And one of the things that became like the last straw for the other brothers was that their father made Joseph, and only Joseph, a very expensive, long-sleeved robe. My prop here of our coat of many colors that we use in the children's ministry has all different colors there. The more different colors of dye that you had to use, the more expensive the coat was, and this coat would really make people stand out, and they knew, okay, it cost a lot of money to get this coat. And yet Jacob only gave one to Joseph, not to any of his other sons. The day came, as we'll find in Genesis chapter 37, where our story is from today, that Joseph's brothers were out in the field watching their father's flocks of sheep and goats, and their father sent Joseph to go and check on them and see how they were doing. And Joseph chose to take this nice, beautiful coat that Dad had given him and him alone, and he put it on, and he started to go out and seek his brothers. They could see him coming from a long, long way away. When they saw him, and they saw him wearing that robe, they realized that their anger toward him was so much that they just couldn't stand it any longer. They were tired of Joseph bragging about dreams that he had, where one day he would be in charge and they would have to serve him. They were tired of Joseph tattletaling on them. They had had enough of Joseph. And so they came up with a plan to attack him and take that pretty coat off of him, and they threw him into a pit. And at first they were so angry that they were actually talking about wanting to kill him, wanting to take the life of their own brother. But one of the brothers spoke up and said, "No, let's not shed his blood. Look, there's a caravan coming by." Because they were near an area where a lot of people would pass back and forth, going to and from Egypt and other countries to trade their goods and make money. Let's sell him as a slave, and we'll at least profit from it. So they sell their brother into slavery. They don't listen to him crying out for mercy and asking them to forgive him. They sell him off into slavery. Joseph will be sent down to Egypt. He'll be 17 years old. He's not going to see his family again for another 20 years. Meanwhile, his brothers have a problem. They've sold Joseph into slavery. The traders are gone. And now they've got this coat. And they have to figure out, what do we want to do with this coat? None of them can wear the coat. If they were to wear it, their dad would ask them, what are you doing with Joseph's coat? Where's Joseph? What happened to it? They did a very terrible thing. They decided to cover up the wrong thing that they did by lying to their father. And they used the coat. They took one of the animals from their flock and they killed it and fixed it for dinner that night. But some of the animal's blood they took and they cut up the coat and they dipped it into animal's blood, and then they carried it back to their father. And they claimed that they had found it just on the way. And they asked their father, do you recognize this? Is this your son's coat? Jacob immediately recognizes this very unique garment that he had made specially for his son. And he immediately jumped to the conclusion that they wanted him to jump to. That something awful had happened to Joseph, that Joseph had maybe encountered a wild animal who had torn him to pieces. And Jacob started to grieve. And he grieved and he grieved and he grieved. The brothers decided to not tell the truth, no matter how much they saw their father in pain. They couldn't bring themselves to admit what they had done, that they had lied about what happened to Joseph, that they knew Joseph was alive. They knew that Joseph was down in Egypt as a slave. They kept the secret and it bothered them. Very often, you and I, because we're people like Joseph's brothers were, we will do something and we'll realize, uh-oh, that was wrong. We made a mistake. And when other people, whether it's a parent or a teacher or an employer, somebody finds out what we've done wrong and they ask us, what happened? What are we more likely to do? We're more likely to try and make up a story, tell a fib, tell a lie, rather than tell the truth. Why? Because if we tell the truth, we might get in trouble. Does it make us feel better to not tell the truth? No. What happens? You keep thinking about it, and it bothers you. Joseph's brothers are going to be bothered for the next 20 years because none of them wants to speak up and tell the truth, because they'll not only get themselves in trouble, but they would get all the other brothers in trouble. One of the things that we're looking at this week is how God is with us in difficult times. It was a difficult time for Joseph's brothers because down deep they knew they had done something wrong. It was a very difficult time for Joseph's father. He thought his son had been killed by a wild animal. But it was the most difficult for Joseph. Joseph was carried away. He was made a slave. He was forced to live in a foreign land, learn a foreign language, learn foreign customs. I have a couple of props here, a giraffe and a ceramic monkey, because the people in Egypt worshiped all kinds of false gods. Joseph knew who the one true God was, and Joseph had a choice to make. In spite of a bad thing that had happened to him, he lost his home, he lost his relationship with all of his family. Now he's being forced to live as a slave in another country. Instead of getting mad at God, instead of hating his brothers, Joseph decided that he was going to keep worshiping the one true God and not fall into the habits of the pagans. We're going to learn more about Joseph and more about some other Bible characters like Moses later on this week. We invite you to come back every day for Courageous Path to Freedom, VBS.
Good morning, boys and girls and family. We're going to talk this week about some of Egypt and some of their science endeavors. One of them that I always associate with Egypt is the pyramids. And they're a great construction effort. As a matter of fact, there's still, scientists don't know how they actually did the pyramids. Here is a suggestion that they made ramps, and they would carry the big blocks, drag them up the ramps to make the pyramid, to build it. But you know, they used heavy blocks, and I brought a brick. This is a heavy brick. If I lay that brick on the table and try to push it, it's not going very far. But what they might have done was get some kind of lever. I'm going to use my knife, and like a mechanical advantage, to lift that rock up, and then they would have shoved logs. I'm going to use pencils. They would have shoved logs underneath there so that it would roll, and they would have. I'm going to expedite this a little bit. So now they put them up here, and you can roll that brick along. Okay, so you can try that at home. Get yourself a big brick, get yourself some pencils, and you can see that you can have a great mechanical advantage. And if you have 1,000 people pulling that on some logs, you can move and build pyramids. One of the other things that I associate with Egypt is hieroglyphics. They were one of the first to have a form of writing, and they used pictures to do the words. And I have one back here. We have one back here. These different symbols are different letters and different meanings, and that's how they would record their history. This is another one of them, how it might look. And I have here an alphabet, and you might want to take a picture of that or look at that, and you write it down. And this is a scientist's interpretation of the different symbols and what letters they might have meant. So you can see that A is one type of bird, and M is another type of bird. My name is Mark, and so I wrote my name in hieroglyphics. And maybe you want to do the same. So I'm going to hold this back up, and you can take a picture of it. Your parents could...
Goes upside down.
Oops, got it upside down. Your parents could take a picture of that, and you could do your own writing in hieroglyphics. And so that is our discussion today in Science and Vacation Bible School Virtual.
Joseph lived a life filled with dramatic highs and disheartening lows. The favored son of Jacob, Joseph sported an elaborate robe and had prophetic dreams. These dreams, however, made him hugely unpopular with his already jealous brothers. Filled with hatred, Joseph's brothers threw him in a well and then sold him to a caravan of traders who were headed to Egypt. Even in here, God is giving me hope. God made me a favorite among the warden. The warden put me in charge of the other prisoners, so things have been looking up. A while ago, another prisoner had a weird dream that he didn't understand. With God's help, I told him what his dream meant and what would happen. Then I asked him to remember me when he got out of here and went back to serving Pharaoh. The things I said would happen did happen, and the other prisoner did get out, and he is back to serving Pharaoh. But I think he forgot about me. Think of a sad story or a scary time in your life, a time when you didn't feel very hopeful. Now, describe what you see. Did you have a little bit of light to remind you that God was always there, or did you feel like this time was going to be very hard for you? I've had hard times. I didn't know what would happen next, but I do know that no matter what, God gives me hope. Even when things seem sad, scary, or hard, He's still with us. It's kind of like these lights that shine in the dark. Just like the light, God is always there, in dark or hard times and in good times. Joseph, I'm not sure what you've done now, but they're calling for you in the palace. This means your visitors have to leave. Unfortunately, they can't stay forever. Sorry, friends. We can't help you. The Pharaoh's wait. Come back tomorrow to see if this is a good thing or a bad one. I just hope Pharaoh's in a good mood.
And good morning. Welcome to Courageous Path to Freedom VBS. I am Nancy Jankowski, VBS Director, representing Egypt and Pharaoh. And to my right is our Bible Times representing the children of Israel Baker, Annie Dent. Anna in the Bible, from which Annie and actually Nancy even come from, is a name that means grace. So I'm going to turn it over to our Bible Time Baker, Annie Dent for teaching us today in session 1 about bread.
Good morning. I am Annie Dent, and I have been baking for 34 years, Vacation Bible School. And when I first started, I baked only one cake or loaf of bread per day because we had a small group. But as time passed, I grew larger, and I started making cookies, cakes, different types of bread. And I want to talk to you about some of the different types of bread. Unleavened bread, which is the flat bread like this. This is leavened bread made in the bread machine. This is leavened bread also. We have several different kinds. We have rolls, different kinds of leavened bread, and we just enjoy having bread. And I would like to tell you about 2 times bread was served in the Bible. In Genesis 14 through 18, King Melchizedek served bread and wine. And another time was Moses, when he was in the wilderness. They let manna down. God let manna down from heaven for them to eat. And I guess that's it for today.
Don't turn off yet.
It needs to be longer.
It's it, but at VBS, when she would put the bread machine on, people could smell the bakery throughout the entire building. And as soon as she turned it off and brought out the hot bread, the whole Bible school would converge on the bakery to put butter. Sometimes they dip it in the olive oil. And she never could keep the tea cakes in stock because the VBS director would come by and scarf them up. And good morning. Welcome to Courageous Path to Freedom VBS. This is the Health and Beauty Station, session number 1. What I'm going to be briefly showing you this morning is some of the ways that they took care of themselves while they were in Egypt and while they were wandering in the wilderness. When they lived in Egypt, I've got a t-shirt here that I've made reference to in some of the other sessions. It shows what an Egyptian woman would have dressed like. You'll notice this female has a shaved head because men as well as women very often shave their heads, and sometimes they would either wear wigs or they would wear ornate hats, usually with the symbol of the snake on there. You'll notice I'm wearing an armband that has the symbol of a snake because the Egyptians worshipped all kinds of, quote, animal gods. So they would worship cats and snakes and some of the other animals that were prevalent in the area. They would do makeup. The makeup that kind of overemphasizes the eyes here. I hope later on this week we'll be able to get somebody to come out and do a makeup demonstration using me as the guinea pig. But the reason they have these eyebrows that are highlighted and the eyelashes highlighted with a particular type of makeup was because the makeup itself served kind of like what an athlete will do to put the glare of the sun away from them. They'll put on some makeup to make sure that the sun doesn't get to them. But it also had a tendency to keep some of the gnats and the flies that were very prevalent in that area away from their eye area. So that's why they would wear this over-exaggerated makeup, and that's why even on some of the hieroglyphs and some of the pictures that you see, if you look up pictures of ancient Egypt and it shows some of the hieroglyphics, all of them, men and women, will be wearing this kind of makeup that has emphasis on protecting the eyes as much as they could from some of the creatures that flow there. We'll see you tomorrow for a little bit more about ancient health and beauty. When we finish, I'll go sit out there.